Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Naomi, and I'm the Programs Officer here at MyFace. Thank you so much for joining us today. Before I was a staff member at MyFace, I was actually one of our patients, families that we support. I was born with a bilateral cleft lip and palate, and so MyFace has a really special place in my heart. So throughout my journey, in every way, I was lovely and supported, and I found so much healing in volunteering and getting involved with community. So community was a really healing aspect. Before I started working, I was actually a makeup artist and a photographer, and I would always volunteer my time at MyFace because you can get so much out of philanthropy and being there and helping other people. So I hope that serves as a little bit of an inspiration for some of our young attendees today, that giving back always comes back to you and really helps fulfill so much of the soul and your life. So thank you for being here and for being so open to learning about differences, especially facial differences. And I'm so happy to introduce our lovely Executive Director, Bill Villafranco, who's so amazing, and our lovely speakers, Jameson and Dan.
Well, thank you all for coming. It's really a wonderful day today. You know, the New York Knicks had their parade, and some of you might have gone down to that, like Drew. Good to see you, Drew. And so yesterday I was listening to some clips from... oh boy, who's the point guard? I can't believe I just drew a blank. Yeah, Brunson. I can't believe I just drew a blank on that. On Brunson, and he was on CBS Morning News, and he was there with his dad. And the commentator asked him, why did you go and hug the San Antonio Spurs head coach before your father? And his answer was incredible to me. He said, out of respect for my opponent. And it made me think about Jameson. And it made me think about all that I've read about you, all I just heard about you from your dad, and the podcast I listened to you. You, young man, have respect for everyone. And it is incredible when I think about Brunson and I put you in the same category because of the respect you have for others. So Dad, I know Mom's not here, but wow, what a great job you did raising this young man. It's truly incredible. So just a quick round of applause for Kevin. And Kevin, maybe you could raise your hand so we know who you are. That's Kevin. So, today is a different format for us, for those who have been here in the past. It's an idea that Dan brought to the table, and I think it's a beautiful idea, and that's to have a little panel discussion, a little fireside chat with not one, but two people who are remarkable individuals in their own right. So you heard a little bit about Jameson and Jameson being this unbelievable, respectful young man. And then I want to bring Dan in. Dan is another level, only because Jameson, you're much younger than Dan. But Dan is a man that we met only a few years ago, who entered our life in a way that was quite magical, in that he showed up and he introduced himself and he said, I'm Dan. And we said, okay, you're Dan. Tell me about Dan. And Dan has, since that first time, joined us as a consultant at MyFace, created program like this one, created the brotherhood that you'll hear about, a men's group, the first one in the world in the craniofacial area just for men. Dan is a thinker, Jameson. He's a man that I hope after this you can bond even more with, because his life and your life run many parallels. So why don't I just start with just a simple question for Jameson. And I could actually start with Jameson's condition, how he was born, but we at MyFace don't believe that defines the person. We believe what defines the person is what we're going to talk about. So if you want to hear about Jameson's medical history, you can do that on your own, or you can ask Kevin, or you can ask Pat, because Pat was with Jameson from the very early on. So we're going to charge into Jameson, the person. So you write that the flatline at 4 months old became your lifeline. When did you start seeing it that way rather than just as the thing you survived?
I would say it was my freshman year of high school when my dad just sat me down and he was like, uh, you flatlined as a child and you're here still. Like they they brought you back. Like you God brought you back. And not many people get that second chance that I got. And I from that moment on I said to myself, I don't want to waste that.
It's pretty deep in that at such a young age you realize that. Again, Kevin, the principles you taught this young man are truly amazing. And then, Dan, and yours was a very different circumstance. Maybe you can talk a little bit about the incident and the accident that you had at a very young age as well.
Yeah, so we were planning a family vacation. My aunt had moved to Australia, so we went down, and within 3 hours, I was bleeding out and flatlining on the side of the road. Just before passing out, I remember seeing my dad stood over me, and I've seen my dad cry 3 times in his life. Once was that accident. One was when my therapy dog died, and the other time was when he had a tooth abscess, which apparently is very painful. But yeah, I was laying there and I passed out, and I woke up in the hospital, and I don't think I really grasped it until the last few years of what it really meant. I was kind of took it for granted as a child, being like, oh, life's easy. My parents make food for me, take me to school, life's simple. But as you get older, that I started to recognize it and talk about it more, and really, like Jameson, understand how precious life is and how lucky I am to still be here. Not just with the facial difference, but just getting a second chance to actually live a life that could have so easily just slipped away.
And you played tennis at the highest level. You played as a professional, ranked very high as a professional. That incident and that memory, how did that play into your tennis career as you were continuing to rise through the ranks?
So I struggled with it until I was about 15, 16. I used to get really defensive. I used to take everything very personally. I think that was a product of my age as well as maybe experience at the time. So instead of responding in a productive way and in a mature way, I was quite immature. I would often talk back. I would, talk on behalf of my parents, on behalf of my coaches. And as I got older, it kind of, and the heckling started. I used to get comments. I got threatened with knives in tournaments and around the world. I got comments like, "I'll give you another scar if you beat my friend. I'll kill you if you beat my," literally threats. And I used to get really upset. And even though I was winning European titles and I'd be on the flight home with my dad with a nice trophy, I should be really happy. I should be ecstatic. But instead, in the back of my head, I'm focusing on why would people talk to me like that? And why would coaches, why would adults, and why would parents of other individuals go out of their way to try and make a child feel horrendous? And that's something which, when I didn't have the community that we have now per se, or the understanding that it was out there, I couldn't really talk to my father about it because he internalized it a bit too much. So in my own head, I was like, nobody cares. I'm just going to keep my mouth shut. And I quickly learned as I got older that was a very toxic way of managing it. So I used to deal with the pressure in a bad way. Billie Jean King, pressure is a privilege. It's written on the court at Arthur Ashe Stadium when you walk out. And as I got older and I first read that and I felt this immense pressure, I thought to myself, and Nathan Owen, Josie's dad at the gala last week, he's like, I don't have to be Josie's father, I get to be. And it really reminded me of how I should have thought, saying, I don't have to be here competing right now, but I get to be. This is my second chance at life. This pressure is a privilege. And from that moment on, I learned to manage my emotions and manage dealing with a facial difference in a much more positive manner.
Yeah, it's amazing, Dan. Jameson, so doctors told your parents you'd have no coordination and be mentally challenged. You went on to become a county champion and MVP wrestler. Do you think about those early predictions when you're on the mat?
I would say not when I'm necessarily on the mat, but before I prepare for the matches, and do my pre-match routine. Those thoughts always pop into my head every once in a while, but I honestly they they don't really bother me as much anymore. They did when I was younger, but I mean, it's I just moved past it. Just moved past it. Yeah.
You know, Jameson actually did a podcast, I think a year or two ago,
Yes.
that I found. It's called Off the Mat. If you have an interest in listening to it, it's really well done. And Jameson talks about how he was really trained in jujitsu and how in jujitsu you spend a lot of time on your back because that's what you do and you compete on your back. He had to quickly adjust that to become a wrestler where on your back's a really bad thing. And he did
Very
it.
bad.
And Jameson, talk a little bit about that, you know, from taking that core principle of jujitsu and what you were taught and quickly being able to turn that around so that now you're competing on top as opposed to the bottom, which is ironic because you always want to be at the top. Mm-hmm. And how you were able to take that and use that to a strength that you garnered to become this incredible champion that you are.
So my freshman year, and even a little bit before that, one of my best friends from jiu-jitsu, his dad coached my high school's youth wrestling team, and he was like, "Hey, you should really try this. Like, you would be really good at it." And even like I told him like, "Okay, I'll try it." And the first wrestling practice I ever went to, um, I may or may not have choked a few people, one or two people, um, and I was yelled at quite a bit. Um, and then we went to tryouts, and I honestly fell in love with it from there. And then freshman year, I choked a few people again. That I would not recommend doing that. That and then I would say especially for me in jujitsu, you want to be on your back. Wrestling, not a good idea, not at all. Like you will get yelled at for that. But so the transition was definitely a little bit more difficult freshman year, but through after that it was pretty easy. It's pretty easy.
Let's talk about family and friends for a minute. I don't have a facial difference, which is why I love to learn and ask the questions. Dan, can you talk a little bit about your family and how navigating the world that you navigated, how they played a part, as well as maybe your friends, and how some of your friends perhaps didn't end up being your friends because they had a different motive, and how you were able to work through that?
Yeah, so I think I come from a unique perspective of acquiring a facial difference. You know, some people are born with and acquiring. And a pivotal moment was when I went back to school. And again, I didn't really understand it when I was going through it because I was young and I was just all over the place. But again, as I got older, I understood the situation. But my parents lost a lot of friends because when you become a focal point after you've returned to school after a year and you're bandaged up and you're still, bones are being redone and surgeries, you get a lot of attention. Not necessarily that you're asking for it. I didn't ask for that attention. It's just a byproduct of going through that scenario. And other parents, according to my parents, got really miffed, and I got uninvited from birthday parties, and I don't remember it now, but I was 7, 8 years old, so apparently I was really upset and crying, and why my friends don't want me at their birthday party. Like, I was looking forward to playing soccer and hanging out with them, and the friends that are still in my life now are some of the guys that were still by my side back then. And we don't necessarily talk about it too much, but my parents, as I got older, taught me and told me that like loyalty is incredibly important, and these people didn't leave your side when you were going through your tough times. So, but my family, most of my family were great, and my mum and my dad had different ways of managing their emotions, like everybody does, and I learned a lot from both of them. I'm very grateful for both of them, and it still is to this day, even though the surgeries were several years ago, and I mean the facial scar is a permanent reminder of that day, especially when they see me, because nothing happened to them because of the impact of the car, and they were fine, and I was curled up in a ball 50 yards down the road, bleeding out, and there was an immense amount of guilt. So I had to tell my parents when I got to an age where I could sit down and articulate how I really felt. And that was when I was like 18, 19. It took a long time. And for me to sit with them, say like, you should never have felt guilty for what have happened. And you should never feel any shame and not apologizing for them losing friends, but like, I would never have asked for that or wanted that. And I would never have wanted you to have felt sad on my behalf. And my mum got very emotional. And it was almost like that pent up emotion of years and years of not being able to articulate it. And then we had this great conversation, and my mum's fantastic, my dad's fantastic, but my dad still doesn't like talking about it. But my mum is, after we spoke about it, she is now like, it's a weight lifted off her shoulders. And to see, I'm my own harshest critic, but to see her son and her other son flourishing and living their true life, like, she can't ask for anything more. So,
How about your siblings? What part did they play?
one younger brother, he was also in the accident, so nothing happened to him. And it wasn't until I saw the program Wonder, which I was still recovering from the flu when we went to Boston to watch the show, and I've never like cried or gotten emotional at a movie, even though my wife's like nudging me during these like romance Christmas movies, being like, "You don't find that emotional?" And I'm just like, no, like. But during Wonder, it was just the impact of just so many different dynamics, the family dynamic, going back to school, and then the sibling dynamic, and thinking to myself, did my brother feel that way? And I'd never even questioned it. So when I felt better that same weekend, I FaceTimed my mum, and we spoke about that, and we spoke about it for 2 hours. Then I spoke to my brother, and we spoke about it, and there was no resentment because of that attention differential. But I said to him, I was like, if you ever felt that way, then I apologize. I'm not saying you did, I'm not saying you didn't, but I'm just letting you know from my own ego and mentality that I feel a lot better now on my behalf after watching Wonder and understanding that and then relaying that to you.
That's amazing. And the Wonder piece, Kevin, is even more incredible. We were talking before. And I think Jameson's first surgery,
Yep.
when you were in the waiting room, Augie from Wonder was in there as well. And the fact that you talked about this, Dan, and then we bring it up here again is not something that shouldn't have been told. And Jameson, how about you can share a little bit about your friendships and how your family has helped you through your lifetime?
So I have 2 sisters and 1 brother. My older sister, she went when we would go out to tournaments and everything, and I would see people either point at me and start talking. She would go up to them and be like, "Hey, what are you doing right now? Like, why are you doing that?" Like, and she did that to literally everybody. Like, whether they were way older or I don't know about younger, but I hope not. uh, and, and so she was pretty much like she was my backup. I'll put it that way. She was one of my best friends growing up, and my younger sister. We're the middle two. We fight a lot, um, and but yeah, she's helped me a lot throughout my life, and she's given me a lot to think about um, through growing up. And then, my little brother, as much as I don't want to admit it, he's been probably my like my older sister, my best friend, and besides him liking the Bills, but that's a different story. Um, but yeah, he's just amazing. He pushes me every single day. Yeah.
Well, I gotta have a little deeper question.
hmm
What is the one question you wish someone would ask you?
let's see. I would probably say it would be like how are you doing, or are you okay? It Because if every single time we went out to eat or just to the mall in general, I would get stared at, I would get pointed at, and you know some of my friends noticed it, but a lot didn't, and it was just like sometimes I felt alone in a sense.
Yeah. Dan.
It's something similar. Mine was, do you mind if I ask you a personal question? Because if then my gut, that question in itself is then thinking, okay, I think I know what's coming next. So it gives my brain and instincts time to react instead of just being asked like, oh, what happened to you, or what's going on there, and then instantly being defensive. Especially when I was younger, like it would give me a few seconds to just process like, oh, I think I know what's coming, and then can articulate it better.
Yet you're stepping out, both of you, to advocate. And as an advocate, there's responsibility. What do you hope your message will be to others, that maybe those that didn't ask you that question, Jameson, or didn't ask you the question, Dan, that you can help people understand through your by your advocating?
So there's two quotes, which I grew up in southwest England, fishermen, farmers, and very rural, underrepresented community, but some of the most amazing, hardworking people in the world. And I'd always walk the dogs with my parents down to the harbor, and there was this one fishing guy that the wind would be crazy, the waves would be crazy, and he would say to me, and I think it's a famous quote, he goes like, ships are safe in harbors, but that's not what ships are designed for. And I was like, I'm going to watch my language. And then and that hit me really hard. And I never used to talk about it. I used to deal with the comments. And like I said, when I was a bit younger, maybe wasn't as mature as I was until I went to college. And it taught me that, words and actions kind of take time in each other's spaces and processing. You're either going to say what you're going to do or do what you're going to do. And I was just thinking to myself, I wish I could talk to people about it. And this is years ago. And I didn't realize there was a community out there. I didn't realize that, I was in the UK, that Changing Faces was around. And I discovered it accidentally, and it just changed my life. And then My Face, same thing. That I was like, and there's the other quote was, I think it's like a World War II, and it reminded me on the way to the bathroom out there. It's like, I think the original quote is like, ask what your country can do for you, what you can do for your country, or something like that. And I kind of relay that and articulate that in a way of like, not what can the community do for me? It's like, what can I do for the community? And it's like, there's self-righteous people in the world. We see that on the news in negative and positive ways. But, the community, any community that you're a part of, whether it's related to you personally or where you live, where you're from, what you're involved in, your sport, career, like your goal should always be to serve the community ahead of yourself. And seeking that challenge and using that as like a life trajectory, I think is one of the most powerful, most influential, authentic ways to live life. And so hearing those two comments and the quotes, then it kind of didn't choke me like Jameson would, but like it kind of smacks me around the head in terms of like, I should do something and use my voice, because I didn't have the role models growing up with a lived experience or who understood it. And it took me 27, 28 years to realize that the community existed. And if I'd found that community when I was 7, 8 years old, or my parents found it when it happened to me, I'm not saying that my life would be any different, but I can promise you that my father and my mother would have had a totally different last 20 years. So
Just to put it in perspective for you, so Dan was a very successful technology salesperson for years, and he stepped out of that to join us because he felt there was much more that he could give to the world than just selling technology. It's the kind of person Dan is, and it's the kind of learning that we get at My Face from the community when they come and spend time with us. So Jameson, you had a second to think. How might you answer that question?
I would say there was one quote I heard, this was probably a little bit over a year ago, and it says, God sets the course. Your job is just to steer the boat. And like, you're gonna meet a bunch of new people along the way, but it's the people that stay with you through all of your hardships and like really everything throughout your life that you really want to stay with you.
It's beautiful. So at this time, we can open it up for a few questions. I have a few more, but I want to have others have the opportunity to ask Dan and Jameson some questions if you'd like. And you can also direct them at Kevin. I'm sure Kevin would be more than...
Please. No. The answer to that is no.
So just raise your hand and Karen will bring around the microphone.
Who's your favorite basketball player?
Shea Gilgeous-Alexander.
Nice one. Mine's is Kobe. Who's your favorite soccer player?
my wife wants me to say Harry Kane. So I'm going to say Harry Kane. Especially after what happened yesterday as well. So.
Has your face ever gotten in the way of playing wrestling or just doing wrestling?
Thankfully for wrestling, like I use more of the scent. It's more or less a close contact sport, so I just have to rely on my touch and feeling. Like in the practice room, we would do these drills where one guy would close their eyes and the other one would just straight up shoot on them, and we were like, and the coaches were like, you have to defend it with your eyes closed. I told one of my friends, I was like, I do this every day. What are we doing here? It's like, are you kidding me?
Real quick story. So I was asking Jameson because I was very interested to know when they're competing and they're getting ready to, what do you call it when you're going to go after each other in the beginning? Yeah. Right. Yeah. Okay, wrestle. I thought it was a more technological answer to that, but thanks, Jameson. When you're about to wrestle, like, was there, he called it chirping, was there any chirping that went on? You know, were they trying to psychologically move you off your mark? Were they trying to get you to think about poor me and not about what was just about to happen? And it was ironic. I was just amazed that he said no. There was none of that, but there was a lot of that after. After he pinned them, after he won, there was all of that after the fact, which I found pretty remarkable, that nothing went on during the match, but it was all after the match. And the other great, I'd like you to tell the story about the young boy who came up to you just recently, or a little after you had your article written about you and the photo.
Okay, so I these past 2 years, my junior and senior year, I tore my meniscus twice, which it's not good. It's never fun. And after the first one, my junior year, I was going out to a tournament with my teammates, and I was just standing on the sidelines watching one of my teammates wrestle, and this kid from another school comes up to me and goes, "Oh, hey, can I take a photo with you?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure, okay, like, all right." So he takes a photo with me, and he's like, "Dude, I saw your article, like, you're amazing. My friend's gonna be so jealous I saw you." And I was like, "Oh, I didn't know you saw that, but okay." um, and at that moment, I was like, I'm not famous, am I? Like, I questioned that. I was like, I don't know what's going on here. But
My name is Orion, and sorry. My question is, does your appearance still affect how people like see you to this day, or does it like, I don't know how to say it, but like, or like, are you used to it or stuff?
I would say no. At least at high school, no. Um, because, I'm now a part of a sports team, and thankfully, the team I'm a part of is one of the better teams at my high school, even though, no one will admit it. And so it's I walk around school with, our wrestling stuff on, and that I'm kind of like invisible in the hallways now. Like, I'm not the center of attention, or like everyone in the hallway is staring at me.
Jameson, do you feel that wrestling became an equalizer for you?
I would say it did. Just mostly just because I was actually able to do a sport that, well, for one, we're closer to each other. So it's not like, I guess, for tennis, Dan, like, I would have to follow a small yellow ball. I'm like, and I would have to hit it with a racket. I would not be good at that. I promise you that right now. Yeah. But I used to play soccer, and like, thankfully, when I was younger, it was like the ball was a light and we were all moss going to the light. Like, it was easier to see the ball, but as I grew up, I would look up and I'm like, that's the sun, not the ball.
I think first interactions or first contact points with people is still, you still wonder sometimes. Like, I don't think I'd be lying to myself if I never said I don't think about it ever. But yeah, as you get older, more confidence, and you quickly learned as well that every projection that someone makes is just an accusation on their part. So if they're going to project behavior onto me, then I just know that they must be struggling in their own life and insecure about something. So once I learned that, then it was just water off a duck's back, and just going with confidence and owning who you are. And I always and will always believe that folks with facial differences, we've had to navigate the world looking different. whether it's, syndromes or scarring, and I don't know how else to say it, but just built different, I guess. Just built different. And you just, you learn how to manage your emotions, and you learn how to deal with people and people management and emotional intelligence, and you just, get on with your day and try and treat others as how you would want to be treated. And yeah.
It's remarkable. Yeah. It's remarkable that you both played a sport where you were right front and center. Right? You weren't part of a football team. You weren't part of even a basketball team. You weren't part of a soccer. You were front and center for everyone's eyes. And yet you always seem to have risen above and became leaders and nationally ranked and going off to college with an incredible wrestling career. I'm just thinking as you were speaking about that, and it hit me that you two were right in the center of it. Not afraid to show who you really were.
The question for both of you guys, being that you're both athletes, and have you ever, when you first started, felt underestimated just for your appearance? And then how did you guys overcome that to get to where you guys got to?
1000%. I when for the start of wrestling matches, we would all, both of the guys would have to check into the table and all of that. And from the moment I saw the other guy run out, I would see a smirk on their face. They would look at me and be like, "Oh, he's just gonna roll over. This is gonna be easy." And when I beat them, they didn't like it.
My issue was but my thing was it quickly became a part of their association of your identity. So it wasn't like people weren't analyzing you for the person you were or the athlete you were or the player you were. It was like, oh, I'm playing the guy who's like, I have 50% of the hearing on my right side, and I'm very susceptible to a lot of pain just due to all the reconstruction, the bones in the right side of my body. And so I would struggle recovering. So I'd have to maybe play the next day, and people would push to play 2-a-days, and knowing I just probably wouldn't recover that well. And that became a real focal point. And the problem what I struggled was just the identity. It's not, oh, I'm not playing Jameson, I'm not playing Dan, I'm playing like Scarface, or I'm playing the guy that looks different. And it was overcoming that. And again, goes back to finally understanding their projections and was just, showing their insecurities. But what was funny is that when you were losing, and I'd rather die than lose. I was like I would die here rather than lose to this guy. And it was, I was just thinking about the situation I was in once. I was telling this guy, I was like, I'm gonna die before you beat me. And yeah, so identity, and I don't know, I just when you're losing, you wouldn't hear anything, but when you're winning, that's when, the losers kind of talk the most. And it's the same in life, right? There's like tall poppy syndrome where people achieve amazing things, whether it's like new job promotion, whether they're, excelling in their career, and people like to cut people down to the level that they believe they're at, instead of being grateful for knowing them and being a part of their life. And so, yeah. And that's one thing I'll say to Jameson as well. It's college, is that when people are chirping, when people are giving you comments or grief, if that happens, you just know that you're winning. And that's it. That's it. So.
Hi, my name is Madison, and my question is, what is your coping mechanism for dealing with your surgeries?
So I just got cleared to wrestle off of surgery. So I would say it's just, for me, it would be meditation, honestly. Just being able to drown out the noise and just be with myself and my own thoughts, and just not think about what's going to happen next. Specifically, according to my dad, what am I going to eat next?
Hi, my name is Jonathan, and I have a question. Did you ever see yourself how others treated you? And if you did, how did you get over that?
Uh, with a lot of grace and forgiveness. And again, it goes back to that comment of people are making projective comments at you. It's often a sign of their insecurities. And, you know, especially for you guys at school, and it's something which when I was at school as well, people would say things to me and I would always feel that need to respond straight away and, you know, have that thought of like, oh, I got you. Like, you know, I'm better than you, or I'm bigger than you, or, you know, I'm going to make you feel small. And I think, especially at your guys' young age and everybody else, it's just realizing, again, I've said it probably 3 or 4 times, but if they're projecting and making these comments towards you, there's probably something going on deeper down inside, which may need addressing, but just treating people with grace, respect, and ultimately just, you know, listening to people and treating them how you want to be treated.
Yeah, Dan said it perfectly. Like, I would have said the exact same thing. But yeah, I mean, like, I've had my fair share at school of people talking to me or, you know, saying a bunch of things. And for me, I went from a private elementary school to a public middle and high school. And for me to go from a class of 24 or so in a private school of like me seeing them every single day and them knowing me pretty much throughout from kindergarten to 5th grade, I got to know a lot of them, and I was really close with a good amount of them until middle school and high school, where we all disbanded. We all like no, not many of us went to the same middle school, and so I will say this: when I got into middle school, it opened my eyes to a lot because you know, first off, they don't act the same in public school as they did in private school. There's a lot of differences, including the way people talk about each other or to each other. Like I learned a lot, and a lot of it was not. It was a lot of negative, not much positive, unless I went to the like until I saw the kids who I went to private school with, and I was like, "Are you dealing with the same thing I am?" And they were like, they said no, but they helped me through it.
Wow. So my final question will happen in a minute because I want to thank both of you. An unbelievable conversation, truly beautiful in many ways, incredibly deep, making me think quite a lot, which I think is what we all need to do a little bit more and speak less, hear more, speak less. And Jameson, we wish you the greatest success in your college career. We're going to follow you. We're going to haunt you. We're going to make sure that you are pinning your opponents, or at least you're doing what we know you can do. So best of luck to you in college. And Dan, to you, I mean, just a remarkable man, just a remarkable human being. Thank you for always putting yourself out there for people to emulate, to learn from, including me. I'm incredibly grateful for our friendship. So my last question, when all the surgeries are over, when all the diagnoses are forgotten, and when the world stops talking about appearances, what do you hope people will say was the most beautiful thing about your life?
I would say just the way I at least tried to handle myself, and like I I tried to put other people first and or before myself rather than thinking about like, you know, this kid said this. I mean, yes, did that bother me? Oh, a lot. But I would think about others before I thought about myself and what I had to deal with.
Dan?
I was watching this science show last night about the world, and it was getting pretty deep as well about longevity and the universe and stuff. But it kind of reminded me about, the little dash that you see on people's headstones at cemeteries. And I visited my nan. I go and sit with my nan, who's now passed, and just talk to her because, before I immigrated back to the US, my nan was, going through cancer, and I got to spend those few years with her, and it was very emotional. And she was there for me when I had my surgeries and incidents. So she was a big, strong woman in my life who I used to look up to all the time. And they were talking about the dash in people's lives and how quickly it goes and how fleeting life is. And just my sole goal is, whether it's in the community or outside the community, it's just making sure that you leave the world like slightly nicer than it was before you arrived. So, whatever context you want to put that in, materially or philosophically, then, as long as the world's nicer when I leave than when I first came, then I did my bit. So.
Well, I can assure you that I think everybody here is going to have a better day after this conversation than they were having before we had it. That I can assure you. So thank you all for coming. This is our last speaker series luncheon for this year. We will start up again in September. We are working on speakers for next year. We usually host these luncheons every 6 weeks. If you have someone you think would like to come speak, please just reach out to us and let us know. We want to recognize one of our board members who's here today, Barbara Zuckerberg, who's a very important part of what we do. We were at a very late board meeting last night, and she's here again today. So thank you, Barbara. And then, of course, the staff, and I'm going to try this without writing it down. So please, Jackie, help me. So Jackie and Karen and Alyssa and Naomi, Suzanne, Kristen, Pat, Dan, but Dan's here, so Dan's not going to stand up. I think I did it. Yay for me. Who did I miss? Got Chris. Yeah. So thank you all for what you do for My Face. And then finally, I want to call out Steve. Steve Sampson is head of with Dan, our men's group. It's called the Brotherhood. They're not in the same jacket it's not by accident. It's actually the Brotherhood jacket of My Face. It's a brand new, a part of the organization that we started, and it's just an opportunity for men to be with men to have conversations with each other. We're actually hosting an ice cream social on April 29th. Which are all welcome to come to. June, I do this all the time, June 29th. But, just thank you all for coming. Jameson, Dan, Dad, this is the real Jameson. So thank you all for coming. Please stay, mingle. We're here until 3 if you'd like to be, as long as you'd like to be. There's plenty of food. And Jameson and Dan, thank you so much.